except when I lost my mother. And I want to tell you that the late Raila Odinga was out of the country, but having communicated Professor Nyang' Nyong'o, the late ODM, the group, the political party, led a team of 7 people from Kenya, and Professor Nyang' Nyong'o came to our burial home in Omodo in Soroti and joined us. That is how close we were as friends. When I was incarcerated wrongfully, I want to tell you that the late Raila Odinga, during that time of trial, flew to Uganda to meet the high-level leaders of this country, and he personally met the president. And throughout my time, my wife is here, the late Raila Odinga used to call every day, sometimes twice, to check on my wife, to see whether there is anything the family needed. The Baganda was saying, "Muno mukabi, ye muno dara." I want to tell you that the late Raila Odinga was a very, very dear friend. At a time, Right Honorable Prime Minister and the team here, I remember, Professor, in 2007, the 27th, after the elections, 2007, the late Raila Odinga called me at 5:45 in the morning. He was next to his wife, Ida, and said, "Now, it looks like we have got it." And I wanted to, obviously, it was very clear ODM had won. And we discussed a number of areas where we could work and who would be invited, very early in the morning. At about 10 in the morning, same day, I called Professor. He was with Jim Orengo. I called him and said, "It looks like something is going wrong. Somebody is going to be sworn in later this evening. Some documents are being altered at KCC." Rightfully, they went there, Professor, you recall that. The rest is history. And I want to tell you, mayhem and hell broke loose, because when the elections were rigged and Mwai Kibaki was sworn in the evening, Kenya went to a frenzy. And during that time, there was total confusion. And I want to tell you, comrades, my friend, I have a lot of friends all over the world. I called and I was talking to the former president of Ghana, President Kufuor. And in passing, I said, "Brother, why don't you help our brothers in Kenya?" He had just taken over as the chairman of the African Union from Thabo Mbeki. He said, "Okay, I've got a number for Raila Odinga, you could call him." He said, "No, let him call me." He gave the number of the PPS. And rightfully, when I called the late in Kampala, in a Nairobi club, George then, he said he picked the phone. And they talked. I gave him the message. He called and talked to President Kufuor. The rest, fast forward, when President Kufuor wanted to fly to Kenya, the Kenyan government blocked his flight and did not give him clearance. He said, "Well, if they do not want me to come and help, I have Kofi Annan here." And Kofi Annan had just retired as the Secretary General of that great UN body. And I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, he said, "Let me talk to Kofi." And indeed, Kofi was going for a medical checkup in London. Olaro Tunu, you know your brother. And what happened then, he said, "Well, I will only get involved if the big boys are behind us." And that was the time he wanted the Americans, the British, and the European Union to come in. Condoleezza Rice was on our way out as the Secretary of State of the United States. And you know, as it moved on, that is how we had the Kofi Annan coming in. I want to say that it is against that background that we even deepened our relations with the late Raila Odinga. When he was later on sworn in as the Prime Minister of Kenya, he flew in as the Prime Minister from Kenya, the first flight in April 2008, to Uganda, and was with the President Museveni in the evening for dinner. Later on, he flew the next day to Soroti municipality. Professor, you remember that. And when he did, he addressed a mammoth rally. And later on flew to Queen Elizabeth National Game Park for Easter before flying to Rwanda. His first trip was Uganda. But he came to join and to thank the people of Teso and our people for being with him at that time. I thought he would give that a big hand. I also want to tell Arsenal. Some of you would know that if Raila had football and during the European League, if Arsenal was playing, everything would come to a halt. He would watch his football. He loves Arsenal. I know the Arsenal fans are clapping here. I don't know which team, Mao, you support. I know you're a great supporter of Uganda Cranes, but in the European League, soccer is soccer. But I also want to say that I talked to Baba. We are supposed to go for, he called me and said, the first week of October, he said, we have a jamboree in Mombasa, 20 years of ODM. And you have been with us, with Morgan Shangirai, the late Magufuli, and many others. I've just signed your invitation to come and join us in Mombasa. But I'm a little under the weather. And later on, I had also wanted to come to Nairobi to meet him. He called again and said, now I am going to go to Mombasa. I think it does well for me because of the temperature. Later on again, he called me from Mombasa and said, I am in Mombasa, but I'm coming to Nairobi. I've been advised to go for an X-ray, MRI.